Wait, I don't think that they can hear you on there. You're welcome.
Flipped out. Okay, so
Got
then,
you.
okay,
I
great.
refreshed the page, like, twice thinking it was
I don't know why it does that. So yeah, it switched to
happens.
the other microphone, but it wasn't
I'll make
pulling.
it happen again, depending on how this goes.
I'll kill your computer with IT. Oh, you did it. You did it with your IT. Okay, so Serious Face. Welcome to the finale of Rush of Madness, session 45, entitled The Killing Moon. Last session, well, we're not going to go over the entirety of it. I do want to go beat for beat and discuss, kind of from the perspective of the characters, what has happened. The main point that we came to before Castia ascended up um, the hill, the rocky hill to Fort Ordeals, um, was that Lose decided to challenge Donovan Sloan, or the individual bearing the regalia of the Ruby King, to a duel. During the course of that duel, she was doing very well, I would say, as best as can be expected when you're being pitted up against a being who has been elected by a divine power to serve as her champion. In that moment, when blade strikes flesh and you feel the blackness take you, and the darkness just fill your heart, your physical being, your soul escapes. It's a feeling you felt before. It's a feeling you're very familiar with. Every night you trance, you feel yourself kind of dip away from the material and pull
Mm.
back from this. This is different. You've never really died before. You've been knocked down, but I don't think you've died. Um, and from what you understand of what death is supposed to be like, this is also different. Very strange.
Right.
In the moment that you're struck, you're watching yourself fall, and you're standing a distance away from the scene. Everything is gray, everything is cold, and there doesn't feel like there's anything to the world anymore. And in this moment, as you drop your sword, and the man quickly twilts his blade, flaring your blood off of it onto the ground, and then resheathing the kingly sword, you realize you're not alone in this strange space. A voice speaks up and says, "How disgraceful." And you turn to see the voice. You see hovering in the air near you a figure, pale white, hidden in dark blues and reds, um, holding a strange curved dagger, his face every so often shifting in light to reveal a skull instead of a humanoid face. He raises his hand in peace, and you see a familiar looking mark, one that was borne by Castia in her moments of divine power. The individual says to you, "Your efforts were not in vain, if that's any consolation."
As long as it's given them time to get to where they need to go.
It has. Well, it will. And you watch as he waves his hand, and you watch as everything becomes kind of muted and kind of gray and blurry, and then
Mm.
you watch as the fight you were just in plays out once again, exactly as you remember it happening, but you're watching from the sidelines this time.
Mm.
And he watches more interestedly, kind of floating in a little bit closer as it's happening. As you are struck down again, he raises his hand, and you watch as everything becomes blurry, almost like a static around the fight. And he kind of looks at your frame, kind of curiously kind of looking towards something that you're carrying on your person. Interesting. Such great power, granted on a whim. Oh, if he could see this, he would probably be raging at the heavens eternally. He reaches forward and kind of plucks something from reality, and you can see the color kind of appear in it as he kind of pulls it from the dark, from the gray. And it's almost as if the gray reality he's pulling it from ripples when he does so. He then floats over to you and hands you the implement of what you think would give you some sort of agency here. The 2 stones remaining inside. You could have whatever you want. Anything.
Oh, it's a lot to decide.
No,
Never found the need to use them.
Well, for certain, but now you have all the time in the world. Well, more or less. What do you want more than anything right now in this moment, knowing full well? And he kind of lowers his hand, which has been up the whole time. The other hand was the one that plucked. But his hand drops, and then everything kind of goes back to speed, and you watch as you're cut down again, and the guy just walks off. Anything that you want. Anything that you could possibly need. Normally, these wishes have rules. Normally, these wishes have backdraft, blowback, matters that you cannot expect as a mortal that would wound you.
Can't confirm.
But you could not do any worse than this, he says as he gestures over to your body.
Well, I did make a few mistakes fighting him. Supposedly.
No. And he kind of waves his hand, and then you two kind of like are windswept, and like the ground just kind of like flies out from underneath of you. It just feels like you're being kind of dragged from reality. And then you're looking down at a fort, and you're kind of high up in the sky, and you watch as the red comet zips past you, but like in grayscale, and slams into Fort Snotchinotl, ripping his arm off and getting obliterated himself. And then you can see the wish, or the divine demand of Castia just destroy your opponent. Fate has already dealt with your opponent. If your pride is so great that you must defeat him, you could wish for that. But if the matter is simply that he is dead, then you have already succeeded.
Suppose I have, but seems Castia's still not free of her
He raises his hand and everything
trappings here.
kind of stops again. You're right. She is not. And then he kind of turns his head to the side. Say that name again?
Castia? Well, I think people have been calling her by a different name lately,
No.
but I just know her as Castia.
She is who you say. I said to find a different way. Poor girl. doesn't even understand. I understand you are not unlike me. You have many children, many who came after you, whose names you have forgotten.
Few of them I have, yeah.
What if I told you that I have the exact same problem, but with all mortality? I am the progenitor of all living kind. And that woman, or child now, I suppose, was your primal mother.
Are you related to her?
Castia, no. She was created whole cloth by my better half.
Is that why you have the kind of points to her palm and...
Stasia has been known by many names. She is an outsider to this world, brought here for purpose, to quell the desires of a lonely mortal being. Before mortality had the strictures that it has now, with death. Some know her as Persalwell. I believe in tradition modern, she has come to be known as Aluane.
But the same... You're not telling me...
I'm not telling you anything you didn't already know. If she dies here, nothing changes. Except for her. She dies.
Castia dies, or Stasia?
Oh,
Does she die? Gods can't die.
I, like her, am infinite. And I have made special course to ensure that we will never be found out. Not by them, not by the Grey Order, not even by our creators.
They found out about her.
Oh, they did. She was sloppy.
I mean, she's a girl. You can't expect much from teenagers.
Rude as hell. What the fuck?
Look, Tom.
I don't disagree.
You did your best.
You agree that she is something very different than what others have claimed that she is and what she has shown herself to be, right? You've traveled with her a time, and you've raised many children of your own, so you know the flippancy, the mental capacities, the nature of a child.
There was no problem with her until people started raising a fuss.
Responsibilities have been foisted upon her by actors outside of her own agency. She was crafted to serve as a vessel, one that I thought was willing, and one that I understand now is not.
Is it because of Sarth?
You mean the boy? Gestures down.
They've become pretty close.
I'm sure they have. Mortal love is a strange matter. Not really something I'm terribly concerned with, because he is in love with someone that is not real. A thing that was crafted for purpose, but now that I see was crafted far too well. If she dies, she is gone for eternity. Let me explain it this way. He kind of lifts up his hands, and as he does so, you and him lift up into the air. You enter into the stars. And then you land on this steel stone structure surrounded by 13 gates. You've heard of this place, I'm certain?
The 13 gates?
Above us rests the wheel, where souls who have no sins within them and have not been claimed by the gods enter into and are respun back into Urs. If they are born with sin here, they enter into the gate to face their punishment for their hubris, for their sin. Below us rests an unending abyss of those twisted by sins, those who have been churned up and spit out by the judgments of the gods, which is a very interesting matter, to be sure, as it hosts both vile creature and radiant being alike, as all judgment is not from what mortals would see as good or lawful or life. It is a twisting, horrible space filled with countless, immeasurable things. But
Where would she go?
you, if you were to die, would go up. She would not be here at all, because she does not have what you have. She does not have a soul.
So she would just be gone.
Correct. Mortals are born with a soul. It is spun through the wheel, sent to the earth to fill the mortal body. Castia, in its place, has the divine, a part of Stasia, hidden away. Poorly, but I do not blame her. It is a test at her... It is a test at her bonds. An interesting one at that. I unfortunately have been punished much longer than she has. So testing the cage is not really something I am interested in doing. However, of late, certain freedoms have been allotted to me, thanks to the foolishness of some. He gestures towards one of the gates, and it has a strange mark. I don't know if you have religion trained, probably not.
Nope.
But
I got history.
yeah, it's probably the mark of one of the demon princes. Demon prince of corruption.
Oh. Makes sense.
If we want to save her, and by her I mean your friend, Castia, not the divine being, Stasia, as I'm sure you might have guessed, gods do not need saving.
Makes sense.
We will have to engage in very bold action. And you have an implement to do just that in your very hands.
She holds up the ring.
And we'll cut from there, and we'll go right back to, my fucking hand! Red Comet's dead. The entity,
Tis but a flesh
the
wound.
Moirai steps forward and
A lot happened in like 10 seconds there. There was.
yeah.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and death.
Yeah.
It happens.
Aladustro kind of breaks the bonds of the Triumvirate and kind of stole from all of them. So, which means that he also stole from Atma. It's been something I've been.
He's
know
a right
what?
dickhead.
Good
He's
for him.
So great. He's Anyway, the individual who has kind of challenged you to some degree, Castia, has had her champion taken from her. She looks to Sarth menacingly. I want to make sure there's a caveat here for narrative beats. Elizabeth, at any moment you have a wish, at any moment you want to just utter words, you can. You can break right in the middle of anything me and Tom are doing. You can just say, "Shut the fuck up, you two."
I
and
cast
then
counterspell.
You just do what you want to do. Okay?
Right on the fucking
Alright.
I
stack.
just want to
Deal
make
with
sure
it, bitch.
that is on the table.
Right.
At any point, you just say, I gotta do a thing. But back to the point. She kind of stares to Sarth menacingly after you've destroyed her champion, and then she looks back to you.
What is it that you want? This
Freedom.
isn't how it's supposed to be.
Freedom, just like you. Thorn, kind of grasping his torn hand, kind of stands up. It is not a wise decision for you to meddle this way. You know that such actions will draw other eyes. And then he kind of raises his hand up, blood kind of spouting from the wound. As he does so, she kind of is raising her hand almost in defense. Castia, your divine mind of foresight, comes to understand what is about to happen. He is removing everything from the equation. He's basically creating a demi-plane pocket and taking this space with us to it. And when he does so, everything kind of turns like this dark blue, and you're surrounded by clouds in the sky. Very much like the scene we have on screen right now. I think. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. High up on the rocky mountain of Fort Ordeal. And once he's raised his hand, she kind of just dismissively kind of waves her hand aside, and you watch as Thorn kind of and falls to the ground. Similarly to how Ryoman did. And then she looks back to you. Freedom. Freedom from this space. Freedom from their meddling. You have the power to do it. And I need that power. Give it to me. Freely. And I will let you live as a mortal, as you desire. That's why you created this shell, right?
What power?
You're a goddess. You have the power within you. You've shown it. I've watched you do it. That's why I sent him after you, points to the corpse on the ground. I need it.
Savage.
And when you showed it so brazenly in front of them, I knew it was my chance to stand here before you in your presence. My maker is not unlike yours.
I need to change things. I want to change things, but not like this. This isn't how it's supposed to be.
You don't have the power. With your power, I will. And I will change it. You do not know me, but you must understand that there is such a thing as fate, and I have been shackled. There's no future but what is made by mortals. when the Arch of Time was broken, me and my sisters were splintered to the winds. We are aimless, and our efforts have been in vain thus far to try and rectify this. But with you, with your power, I will be able to stand on equal footing with them and demand what I want. And what I want is for us to return to the way it was before the Arch of Time was broken by that megalomaniac.
Sorry, I just saw Liz's message. Castia will look at the basically pile of corpses that has accrued in 30 seconds here.
Yeah, it's a hell of a game.
This,
She just throws Sarth onto the pile for the heck of it. No, I'm joking.
this isn't how it's supposed to be. This is why it's the way that it was. Just like this.
I cannot take it from you unless you are willing. The power cannot be stolen. It must be granted freely. But I assure you, if it is not granted, your desires of a mortal life will be expunged. And this place that has been crafted by that foolish... It just spits out an Elvish word, which I don't think Castia speaks Elvish.
I mean, Castia, no.
This is a very interesting point. So this is a very interesting point. I want to point something out very, very strongly. Does Castia not speak Elvish?
No, she does not. There were other things that I got that let me speak dialects, but
spits out an Elvish word, and you do not understand it, which means at this moment you're realizing there's a divide. When you are put into this space, you're just a girl. You're just a Castia.
Can I still feel the white wind to cast anything?
Not at all. But she does not seem to recognize that. She seems to still be talking to you as if there is power.
If you seem to know me and my aims as well as you think, this is a very strange way to convince me that you are the other way, that you are the better way.
Desperate times. I don't have a lot of time. It will be moments before we are dealt with by the Grey Order. Even with our powers, you know that they will limit us. You've done this dozens of times before. When you breached out a Gaion's eye, when you hid within that sword, when you stood upon the inverted pyramid, dozens of times you've shown yourself across the world, and I've missed you by moments. I sent a king of fire once before to try and find you. They found the ring, but they didn't find you. A red herring. Not even what I needed. And then the boy served to be a fool anyway, opening jars that should not be opened. The point of the matter is that if you give me your power, I will let you live in a world that you will be safe in, that your fate will be known and determined and good.
Atlas and I are having a side conversation that is very distracting.
No, it's fine. If you want to take a second and just have that conversation out in the open, I will not. Again, there's really not much you're going to be able to say to me, like when it comes to the possibility of the wish that's going to be like, oh.
Oh,
like,
he literally just said, "Do whatever you want," and I said, "That lady, just shut up and die." IDK.
Again, if that's the wish, whatever you
I didn't
want.
say it
You
was.
could get rid of the demi-plane, so I have power again. You could do all.
There's a lot.
You could get us to time travel. You could do lots of
Technically,
things.
I got 2.
First one doesn't work. You could
Yeah.
wish for more wishes, as that old ad.
I think that is in the rules. Wait,
Mhm.
no, he said there were no rules.
Yeah, he said there are no rules.
Infinite wishes, please.
I'm the god now.
So, you will note though, wishing will cause, no problem.
Stuff will happen.
Yeah, stuff will happen. Like obviously,
Oh,
yeah. Like there's going to be like unpredictable kind of, obviously.
That's why it's a lot of pressure right now.
That's
Right.
why I also said that ring is historically fucking cursed.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand why. That's why I never used the Ring of Wishes.
Some might say more cursed than a normal ring of 3 wishes.
It's the best. It's the greatest plot device.
Look at your smuggle face, John.
Shut up. So
If you do not have an interjection, I will continue.
well,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, she's basically just it's kind of like
Yeah.
the join the dark side kind of moment, right?
We don't
I meant
have
if Elizabeth
cookies.
didn't have a
And to kind
interjection.
of just like as an out of character kind of focus on what is being kind of put here, just so we understand narratively. When Cardiff broke the Arch of Time, he stopped there being a set future. So every mortal being decides what their future is going to be by choice. So
Right.
in a lot of fantasy worlds, there's a predetermined future, there's prophecy, there's all of that. That stopped being the case in The World Reborn when Cardiff broke the Arch of Time at the end of the Greater Key of Gressel, which was a Patreon story we did. The way that figured into the campaign setting is there was this momentary kind of weirdness where everything seemed to change. And that's when the gods became more defined as the 3, and that's when everything kind of locked in, right? Because
Right.
the beginning was altered. The beginning we saw in this campaign is the current and true beginning.
Mm-hmm.
A stranger came from out of time and stepped into the conversation between the 2 gods as they put judgment on Onionomen, now Alanusuro, the Punished. And Persalwell, also Stasia, also several other names, depending on what culture you kind of
I've
fall
been in a
into.
lot of witness protection programs over the
It
millennia.
seems like it, jeez.
She was granted the divine power that Alanusuro stole over life and death, and she became the goddess of life and death. So that formed the triumvirate. Now, the thing is Alanusuro, divine power is infinite, right? So
Yeah.
it's not a situation where you kind of give all and it's okay, because there's still all of it to give. So Alanusuro is death, and Stasia is life, but in 2 very specific aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Death as a punishment, or death as a finality, and then life as freedom, life as basically kind of like the joy of freedom, the joy of doing what you want. That's what these 2 kind of aspects kind of locked into at that point.
Could I
Right.
interject for a second?
Absolutely.
Why not, instead of like putting it into a god's hands, just put it into like everyone's hands, and then just ruin the whole plan?
If you want to wish that, but right now they're again, if you're offering options for them to wish, I mean, go nuts, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. But right now they
Yeah,
don't.
Elizabeth, wish for every person on the planet to become an Alan Usuro.
Yeah.
There's no possible consequences
If
there.
Just give it
everyone's
to
a god,
everyone.
if everyone's a god, the Grey Order has to kill everybody.
That's right.
And then,
Everyone buys Goldier's beer.
yeah.
That's my wish.
And in a funny story about that,
Everyone has shitty abs.
that was actually the aftermath of the Covenant.
Except for Goldier.
Gordy's the best at. That was
But
actually the
doesn't it-
aftermath of the Covenant, though. So when
Doesn't it change it so that instead of like it being a god's power, it becomes like a normal power?
no, so when the
No.
gods retreated, the gods don't exist on the mortal plane. The winds are what give power to people in the mortal
Yeah.
plane. And when they first left, their divine presence was very prominent in the world, which is why we ran 4th edition right after that, and the storyline for 4th edition was kind of that. But yeah. So focusing back up into it, but again, not as wild an idea as I have foreseen. I have thought of a lot crazier in this processing, by the way. So again, if you have crazy ideas, cool. But keep in mind that the way that the wish is interpreted, even though you wish for it very clearly, is going to be interpreted by the ring. And Tom already gets that isn't.
Yeah. It's fate rules.
The the wilder you get, the worse it's gonna be.
Oh yeah, I know. I wish for a sandwich.
I wish to go back to session 1.
I wish I was young again. Ooh, goo goo gaga.
Okay.
Sorry. Anyway.
No worries. So, if you don't say anything to her, like if you don't have any questions for her,
If Elizabeth does not have an interjection at this point, I will continue.
yeah.
Not
again,
to put the pressure on Elizabeth, but
I will say, like for us, it's kind of at a point where
Sure.
if you're not asking questions, it's kind of held there too. So we're just kind of waiting
Yeah.
for the next narrative beat to drop.
this isn't freedom. I want to be free. I want to be unshackled, but I don't. It's not supposed to be like
Free of what?
this.
Free of what? The responsibility of godhood? I can make you that. Give it to me. I will take the burden.
Free to do what? I want that, to the freedom to be with. Castia will look at Sarth and then look in just vague space as if she is thinking about two separate opposing forces right now.
If you were to give me the power, I could free us of this place. I could take you anywhere. Any when.
And other people, other lives, and she'll gesture at Thorn, at Bezos.
I could return them.
Right,
without
man.
Without issue. You killed him,
But-
so that would be fine. I could bring him back, no problem. But the others, yeah, I'd return them. No problem.
Why would I trust that when you've killed so many just to speak with me?
You, as a god,
I didn't want to.
care about the lives? Lives are a trivial matter. You can make them, you can break them, you can do what you want with them. They are nothing.
Well,
They
that's
are-
not true.
they are nothing. But then they are everything. But you can make them whole again. You have the power within you. And if you will not do it, I will. They have nothing to look forward to because it was broken by that madman. And if you are unwilling to fix the arch, then I will. My sisters and I require it.
Your sisters?
My sisters. We are fate.
Fate.
At that moment, we're going to cut back to the gates. Sitting there, kind of like
Sorry.
twiddling the ring. It seems like Alanusro like is literally locked in like the picture pose, right? Dagger
Yeah.
out, hand up, and then he kind of closes his hand, and then kind of looks around, and then kind of looks straight down, and you see this black rift open up, and it kind of shows like a window into like what's going on outside of where you're
Mm.
at. Um, at that moment, you can see in the darkness around you because you're in like a starlit sky. This
Yeah.
very large form moving around the gates, kind of peering in with hundreds of eyes. It's almost like the size of, think of the biggest whale you can think of, just kind of maneuvering about the gates, and kind of in a similar shape as well, just with eyes kind of lining the top of it, and completely cloaked in shadow.
Yeah.
Uh,
Spooky.
yeah, it's the Diaslai, the Guardian.
Yeah.
Then that rift kind of shows like Castia and the individual, but no sound really echoes out from them, just them two
Mm.
there.
So she's not hearing any of that.
Right. And
Okay.
he kind of like closes his hands, it kind of shows, and then you feel that there are other presences that are kind of near to you.
In
Besides
the
in the
13.
circle, yeah, like
Okay.
because you're inside of this circle that's kind of surrounded by the gates, right?
Right.
The first form you feel kind of a woman step out. When you look up to see her, she's wearing kind of purple robes. She has blonde hair. Her hood is drawn up, and she's holding a dagger, not unlike the one that Alanusro is wielding, but
Mm.
hers is kind of differently styled. It looks like it's made by the same person, but it looks like it's a kind of different style dagger. Her
Mm.
specifically looks like it's more of a uh, uh, my brain's working here. A rondelle, so like for piercing armor.
Yeah.
Then you see an old man with a woman attached to his back, kind of enter into the space. The man's about 10 feet tall, and she
Yeah.
kind of maneuvers him like a puppet into the space and then kind of lets him drop to the ground like a sack of potatoes. And she appears to be um, uh, similar in style to the others, but with mushrooms kind of growing out of her robes.
Mm.
And her hair is green. She holds in her hand, but attached to the back of the man's neck, plinthing needle. Am I saying that right?
Mhm.
Uh,
Sounds right.
it's like a surgical tool.
Yeah.
Pithing needle. There's no L.
Oh.
Yeah. And then a shadowy, dark, just presence, which you can't really make any details about.
Mm. Do you know these ones?
He points to the woman standing opposed to Castia. They watch for her.
They're related?
He kind of turns back and, like in a booming voice, yells back, "Do you really think that she will win this?" The women kind of cower a bit. They are ever trying. Failing, but ever trying.
They think they're destined for something?
They are destiny itself.
But isn't it something that we make for our own?
Well, it is now. It wasn't before.
So we used to not have our own fates,
You're old enough.
control our own futures, make our own decisions.
You're old enough. He kind of turns his hand, and when he does so, you can see on the back of his hand his actual mark. So the symbol on his hand is the mark of punishment. The symbol
Yeah.
on the back of his hand is kind of like a bird.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see it, you kind of have this like strange sensation where you realize that you're kind of a duality. And let me explain this very clearly so it kind of groks in your head. The way you understand Losei and then this other Losei are the same person, 100%. However, imagine that the Losei that you are and this other Losei have one strong dividing factor, and that is the world that you live in. There is a very different mouthfeel to the world you're in now to the world that this other Losei existed in, and now you live with both. So there is this parallel Losei that you are aware of that didn't have that freedom, and that freedom was due to time.
Right. So, what is their purpose for being here, but also just here?
This is where they hide. It's a clever enough hiding space.
Seems like a sad existence.
The blonde woman says, "It is. Very much so. But everything has been taken from us. Just like it's been taken from you, Onayo." He kind of shakes his head. "It has not been taken from me. It has not been taken at all. I gave it up freely." You cannot judge the unwilling.
So it's the freedom. I mean, everyone wants to be free.
The woman on the back of the old man, "Do they? Do they want to be free? I don't think so. Many more would rather have their lives planned for them and believe that they are fated for something greater and believe that they are to be something more rather than have to put in the work to do it. Don't you agree?" And the old man kind of moans in agreement.
I mean, that's what many may think. But they're the only ones who can control what happens. I mean, there's other factors around them, but for the most part, if you till the ground, you understand what you're tilling, what the land needs, you'll eventually sow something. The land will eventually be fruitful. It doesn't just happen
the blonde entity
unless
says,
you're lucky.
"A farce, an illusion. The ground was put there for purpose. The tools were put there for purpose. You were put there like them for purpose. Do you think you any different? You're only different because of what has happened to the Arch. Before that point, you were but a pawn, a piece on a board, and now you are so much more. And unfortunately, that is a problem. That is a problem that has not rectified itself and will continue to expand itself eternally." Almost like cutting her off, Alanusro says, "Why is she here?" Gesturing towards the void woman. "Because one exists outside of time. And because it does, there is still a future. A future that is set." Alanusro shakes his head. "No doubt the Grey Order's folly?"
Wait, who is she?
So we're going to pull out a bit because Lose wouldn't understand the concepts that are probably being thrown about.
Okay. Yeah.
But we'll pull out because Castia might grasp what's going on here. So the red entity who is currently engaging with Castia is one of the Moirai, which are fate.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
So she is specifically the present. She is the choices that are made in the here and now.
Gotcha.
The blonde-headed woman is her kind of antecedent. They are kind of two as one, whereas she is the choices that are made. The blonde-haired woman is the choices that are not made, but she's also the one that feeds the choices into the choices that are made. If it were the other way around, it would be alternate to what is. So if there is another world, the Moirai would switch.
Right.
The green-haired woman is the past and is very much the antecedent of all that comes before and up to those two ladies and their choices. And the one that's not currently pictured, because she is but a shadow thing, is the future. She is destiny. The problem with her is there is no destiny. The arch of time has been broken. It doesn't exist, except that there is a preordained future because there are individual or individuals who exist that have come from the future or exist from the future.
John loves chronomancy and time stuff.
I fucking love it.
You would be doing him a favor. You would be doing him a favor if you wished all these bitches out of existence. That's all I'm saying.
All of them.
It's a thing I planned for.
Oh, shit.
I just want to make sure every single thing that I can think of.
You've got a lot of options. I know it's a lot of pressure, but
it's a lot of pressure.
And you don't even have a divine being inside.
I know. I'm just a lass.
That's what I thought I was
cool
too.
Sword.
Oh yeah, see, Foxen, good question. A hard question though. I don't know. I don't know what I haven't thought of because I think I've thought of a lot. I haven't thought of specifically hamsters, but I have thought of the idea of like a flock.
We're all slime girls now.
Slime girls.
Slime girls.
You know what? It technically is not exactly what I thought of, but it is a welcome modification of one of the concepts.
What if the fates all turn into capybaras?
We love that. Capybara fates. But again, it
look at that smug face again, Elizabeth.
There is no. Wouldn't it be hilarious though if you're like, okay, capybaras, and I'm just like, show handout.
Here's the art.
Here's the art.
And you're like, holy fuck! And it's not AI. Like I actually did plan for you to say capybara somehow.
It'd be the world of One Piece. No.
We already did that. It didn't work out very well.
No.
It was fine. It was good.
We were pirates for a little bit.
Yeah, it was
that
good.
OVA worked for a little while.
Yeah, it could have been smoother if it was from the beginning, for sure. Okay.
So the Fates want the wheel just so...
They want the arch
They want the arch reformed because that would help them.
Because fate would be restored.
Mm-hmm. And freedom is more along the lines of what Castia's been seeking, or Stasia's been seeking.
Right, which is what is the current order.
Yes.
In that order, the Grey Order is trying to maintain that balance by not allowing divine powers
allegedly
free reign. Keep in mind, if this lady were to get divine powers, she'd would
be a fucking bitch.
She would restore the Arch of Time, which would take away everyone's freedom. That's what she would do. Okay, that's just one person with divine powers. We haven't even discussed the divine powers that are on the docket that are not these four ladies who have very limited divine power.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we haven't even... It's like demon princes. There's a sexy devil man. There are a bunch of great old ones. There's a lot of shit that can influence the material plane in a bad way.
Yeah.
A very bad way. But yeah.
Anarchy, anarchy, anarchy.
Yeah, most I would say most campaign settings have this very strange kind of understanding for divinities, being able to just kind
Yeah.
of like enter into the planes and do what they want with no understanding for like the repercussions of that, right?
Right.
And that's what we're kind of playing at here. I want to focus on,
Yeah.
do we keep that? Like, or do we go with that, or do we keep it where we're at? And we already moved away from that, and then we also moved away from the chronomancy kind of shenanigans because we had a very crazy series of time travel arcs because of Dan Young.
Yeah.
You
Thanks,
can bring
Dan.
all those things back and make John suffer.
Yeah,
You have that power
absolutely.
right now, this very moment. You can
Absolutely.
make the
Shit.
decisions that will ruin John's life
what's-
for years to come.
And what's fun is
And you don't even have to join the Grey Order tier to do it.
the shitty campaign setting that you make with Capybara, Moirai, and all this other shit. It's just the game that you have to play in next time you play in my campaign setting. If you think about it,
You know,
the world is
Is
what
it
you
little
make.
Clementine, as long as the little Clementine's like sitting on their head.
The world is what you make it.
Yeah. Well, apparently not with the fates around.
Right. Well, right. If it wouldn't be if you chose to side with them.
Um. So it just seems like we're arguing over fates and freedoms this whole time. I know Castia or looks at Elenusero. Stasia is looking for her freedom. And that's what I want for her.
And we will grant
And-
that to her. And he gestures towards the ring. Right now, she does not have the same freedom as you do. She is not unbound because of her tethers to the moon. If you wish her to be free, she must be mortal. And then if she dies, like you, she will be able to move through that death, piece with piece, instead of being forced into non-existence, as so many of Stasia's creations have done so far.
Hmm.
If you do not wish to force this upon her and you wish to ask her how she feels about the situation, then all you need do is wish that you were there with her. However, I warn you, if you were to do so, the one she stands against can use her power to end you, returning you right back to me here, if you wish that you and I together go to that space. Well then, I can defend you, because I am death, wherever I stand.
And then I can use the second one to.
Whatever she wishes, you could ask her directly.
Hmm.
The blonde-haired woman says, Please, you must understand the importance. There are so many individuals out there who will turn the world inside out, seeking out the power of the gods. Some will find it. They'll find it.
Like this red-haired bitch.
They'll find it and they will take it from those who would not be understanding of what they wield. The green-haired woman. It will not bother us if you stop us here. If you think that this will be the last time we try to restore the Arch. We have failed before, but interestingly enough, we have succeeded. And this is the very first time you hear the Black Void speak and you hear it say, "We are inevitable." And it's fucking chilling. It's like like all the
Yeah.
color, if you were a living thing, would drain out of you. If you
Yeah.
were
All
a
that
ghost right now.
subsonic spooky tones.
Mm.
It's like, no, thank you.
Can you just add Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Anderson. She is the future, right? Like that is
Yeah.
what she actually is.
Well, y'all sound miserable.
I wish you all died.
Right.
For comic purposes alone, the old like thing that she's piloting.
Yeah.
That's what.
He
I
also
love
sounds
my
miserable.
life.
Happy wife, happy life. Probably, I don't know. I've never experienced it. That's what the blonde-haired entity looks like, and then I'm trying to load up the other one. It's being
You're
difficult.
good.
It's gonna take a long time to get the capybara art up then.
I know. Those two.
Yeah. Got a lot of power couples in this game.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I suppose my wish is, well, the first one at least is I'd like to, if you'd escort me, to go to Castia to ask her
I don't really.
what it is she wants.
I don't really make the rules, but I do know
Do I need
there's.
to be
It's got to be specific
more
verbiage.
specific?
It's. I wish that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Sorry. First time doing this, you know.
No, I understand. I'm immortal and have lived thousands of lives, and I still don't think that I would be interested in being in your shoes.
That ring is fucking cursed.
R.I.P. Well, it has
So
certain
cursed.
rules. So, let me think. And you'll escort me. I have your permission. All right.
Of course.
I wish for you, Alanusero, to come with me to
Castia's side. Castia's side.
Castia's side.
The ring sparkles, you watch the gem disappear, and the two of you whoosh, doof. And then Castia, in kind of like a moment, as you're kind of like standing off with the red-haired entity, Lose appears next to you, another red-haired entity, as does.
I like that one more though.
A familiar-looking guy. She raises the enemy raises her hands in offense, and you watch Alanusero's hand kind of just move like that, and you watch as the red entity's hand just kind of turns into like a skeletal hand and wither away into dust, and she starts screaming in agony as she drops to the ground, and you see Alanusero's mouth just a huge ass smirk grinning, and he touches Castia on the shoulder and says, "It's been so long. Thank you. You found another way." And then he raises his hand up again and then kind of turns it upwards. And you watch as Thorn kind of slowly kind of gets up and his hand starts to kind of reform.
Jose's just like standing there nodding, kind of impressed, like, huh.
Screaming in the background.
Like in the back of her mind, she's like, "What the fuck is going on?" But she's just staring
well,
like,
no, the fate is screaming in the background, like
Oh.
grasping at her arm
I mean,
stuff,
that's good.
just like in agony.
Losa is like, "What the fuck is going on here?" in the back of her head, though. But she's just kind of like, also just like, "Yeah, this is exactly what he pretty much implied was gonna happen."
And then Thorn kind of like, after kind of getting up from death, kind of looks at him. And then Alnusor raises his hand and says, I will not do the same for your ally. He has thwarted me long enough. And Thorn kind of grits his teeth. Can you show us what that looks like, Tom? Yeah, like that. And kind of like slowly
This
kind of
fucking guy.
steps back. And Alanusro very clearly seems to kind of rule this place. Like, there's this strange sense, Lose, that like once you entered into this space and he did the thing, like the entire place now just feels like an extension of him.
Yeah, it may or may not have become a dread plane for all we know.
Perhaps.
Surprise!
He looks to Castia, then he looks to Lose. No one will bother you, not even him, and points to this. Nobody noticed. Totally has been here the whole time.
Sarth just like peeing his pants in the corner.
No,
Is that...
Sarth is still by Castia and like looked up
okay.
at him, knows kind of what to expect because of the hand. Like, this guy's okay. This is who we're coming for, right? So Sarth is not scared of that. But when Alanusra points off in a random direction inside the fort, points at this small little Manx cat, gray little Manx cat, just hanging out over there in a corner.
A little guy.
And then,
man.
upon being kind of pointed out, it and then turns into a guy kind of sitting in like the lotus position, with like pale white hair and bright, just vibrant green eyes, kind of staring. Oh no, sorry, he has brown hair right now, staring kind of at Alanusro. And just kind of lets out a sigh. This stranger, this mysterious individual. No one will bother you. You are free to make your wish.
Castia will turn, and there will be kind of just a flash of a bunch of different expressions on her face when she turns to Alanusro and Ionomen, because there is still a piece of the concept of Castia that's still kind of wrestling back and forth with everything that's going on. Thanks, my love. I have wanted to do that. I'm just pointing in both the direction of the Fate shrieking with her floppy skeletal hand and Thorn being lifted back up for quite a while.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. He gestures towards Thorn. That was
I know.
actually kind of nice for me for a bit.
And I do appreciate it. I have found another way. And that acts like it knows me, us, everything, and seems to think that
She does.
I would value my freedom, our freedom, over all freedom.
And maybe there is a part of you that would, since your champion was so willing to turn your freedom into imprisonment for his own. It's certainly a thought that has crossed your mind. I'm aware of it. You hear a voice kind of cut in. Lady Moon, goddess, please allow me to speak. And it's the guy who just randomly appeared from a cat. He's on his knees and in a very kind of respectful kind of bow.
I just really want Nayland to actually like come up on screen though, like so bad.
Yeah, where the cat at?
He's in the moment.
Where the cat at?
He's hanging out with Mom.
Does Castia recognize him? Because there has been that flashback when we had the drinks in Einkrad where
Nayland Balcard, yeah.
Nayland, it's been quite some time.
Indeed, and I understand you are not yourself, so I ask you for permission to speak.
Castia will turn back to Anaionomen. Do you trust me?
I am giving you and your champions here as much space as I can. And he turns and looks to Nayland and says, I have followed all of your rules. This space is mine. It is now a part of my realm, which was granted to me at the beginning by the gods. Nayland nods. So far, no rules have been broken that I have seen. I simply wish to treat with Castia. And Anaionomen kind of turns to you. You are the lord of this, or the lady of this place.
I may have another way. Yet another way. You may speak. Turning back to Nayland.
You are an anomaly, Lady Moon.
That's rude. No.
Yeah.
It has been the case that when the Great Order was created at the behest of your champion, myself, and others, we sought to grant freedom for the mortals of this plane that was not allotted to us due to our unfortunate fates. And he kind of almost sorrowfully kind of looks over in the direction of the woman who's gone quiet at this point. He looks back to you. We have done everything that we can to ensure that you are given as much dignity and freedom as possible. Many parts of you remain in this world because you are tied to it at its birth. So is true of him. So is true of her. And he gestures towards the woman who's now quiet. It is my hope that you understand that you are not one being in this moment. This duality that you have created can pose a problem for the mortal realm. And I would hope that if Dryson was able to speak to you, he was able to instill some form of reason upon you. And that is why you came to this place. Do you seek to be free, wholly and truly? And when I say that, I mean the both of you. And I do not mean him, I mean both of you.
It's funny. When we started hiking across the beach through the forest, I was so sure. So sure. And then I have seen the reasons that the Covenant was formed in the first place. And thank you for that, Fate. While she continues to scream. And,
Oh, no, she's quiet.
Oh, okay.
She may or may not be currently dead. Because
Okay, well, good, great. Fuck her.
Either way, good for her.
Yeah, fuck her.
in all honesty, it is a very temporary setback for her. It's
Of course.
She'll be fine.
right.
If Elizabeth did wish for all the fates to be gone, we lost past, present, and future, what would we not have verb tenses in it? Never mind.
We'll get to the vernacular if that wish is made.
Yeah.
I just need to hear the verbiage
Yeah.
of the fucking
I know.
wish first.
Oh god.
I was so sure. And then it went wrong so quickly. It wasn't supposed to be
It often does.
like this. But at the same time, what was once needed, what was once correct, isn't going to be correct forever. Nayland,
I mean,
you know
times do change.
that I have always been about freedom and
Of course.
people making their own decisions, and Thorn, my champion, that I know all too well how betrayed you feel by all of this. But do you know how betrayed I feel that my champion of freedom, of choice, has become almost more obsessed with a single law than Atavius himself?
You see him kind of like on the verge of crying, kind of turning to you and trying to form like a sentence. Like you can see his mouth trying to move, trying to reply, and Nayland interjects. You've seen how quickly matters can go awry, and how quickly the tides of what is certain can change. You know in your heart that personal freedom is of utmost importance in the realm. If it is not allowed, then what is the point? If one power is allowed agency over another, then that individual's glory, that individual's might, needs to be contested, especially if it harms others. And sometimes that harm cannot be seen as clearly, especially by the one who is doing the harm. Thorn wronged you. There's no doubt. And in that, I'm certain he apologizes with his heart. But his apology is not of importance here. What is important is understanding. Two wrongs will never make a right. If it is your wish to be free,
Did somebody say the word wish?
if it is your desire to be free, if it is your desire to be free, that has always been a liberty that has been available to you. You have always been allowed in the heavens to operate at your whim, and a shard of you has done so for some time. But parts of you have always existed in this way in the world, trying desperately to cling to the freedom of the world that she helped bring to life. If you don't believe that you are more than the sum of the two that make up you now, you must understand that all life springs from you. All life started with you and him, and all death was brought into effect because of his choices. He desired to be a god. When he attained that, the punishment for that was not ours. It was yours, inflicted upon your own ilk. And that punishment trickled down to us. And now we are mortal for it. We will not know the pleasures of understanding the infinite. We will not know the pleasures of fully understanding another entity so seamlessly as you are capable of doing. In my prime, I had a taste of the edge of creation. I had a taste of that power, and I know full well what was taken from me. Do I harbor ill will towards you and the gods because of it? No, I do not. And I do not feel that you should be punished for it. What I feel is that you have formed this mortal cage. It is for us to protect it, to make sure that those who are so fragile, who can be destroyed with a flick of your fingers, are protected from that fate. If those like you, the divine, are allowed to freely move about the plane, it will return to how it was before the Grey War. I am living proof of what the desperate and the depraved can do with divine, raw divine power.
Let me ask you, how long have you been following me, following us?
Since the
How much
beginning.
have you seen?
Since the beginning.
Then you know that this girl with my power affected many great changes,
I do.
helped many people.
But who am
And when we were coming up here, I was so certain that that had been right, that that outweighed all. And in a few short seconds, that fate reminded me why the Covenant was formed. But I still feel like there is a better way. There is a difference between us. She looks kind of leans over towards Anaionomen, making those choices and taking those choices away from mortals, but I think the separation between that and the Grey Order and those of your ilk is not as wide as you believe. You have taken agency away from me, from plenty of mortals that have flown too close to the sun, and let others do just that. So I know what this body, this girl wants. And she wants to live, she wants to have a normal life, make her own decisions like any mortal wants to and should be able to. And I know that now is not the time for the gates to open to every divine power and greater being from here and everywhere else. But things need to change, or prepare to change, because I know that in this case, me being here gave that, again, gesturing dismissively towards the possibly dead fate,
very dead fate.
Gave her the opening or the feeling of permission to come here, but do you truly think that a power of good being on the plane is the only reason that greater powers would force their way here?
What I have come to know in my time is that, well, firstly, before I tell you of my perspective, I will apologize for Thorn. And you see him kind of, like he was about to talk, and then Nayland kind of says that, like almost cutting him off. His reason for engaging those that assailed you on your attempt to arrive here, or arrive there, kind of looking around,
Wherever the fuck we're at.
Alanusra says, there. We are not there. We are here. Nayland says,
Of course.
thank you.
Obviously.
Well, no,
Obviously.
it's almost like they both understand like what they're
Yeah.
saying. Like,
Yeah.
And Nayland says, thank you. There. And you did not arrive there safely, and you were stopped by agents of the Grey Order. For that I apologize. Dryson had the right of it. I did not have the words that I received from one of our newer members regarding your status.
The one with the shield?
Right. The servant of Hazil. I was watching you myself and trying to make determinations on my own. The power you exhibited in Panacea were very clearly divine. However, they were manifestations of the White Wind, not of a goddess's power. And I feel that the whispers that you're hearing are from a being that is unwilling to let go of a mortality that is not their own. I've been looking at you because I'm very curious about your nature. You don't possess a soul. Alanusra nods in confirmation, looking to you. You are not like mortal beings. So to allow you to go and be immortal would be against the Covenant. However, it would be something we could manufacture. We could fix.
I have a proposal.
I am at your mercy.
Castia / Stasia. Gotta remember which one I am right now. Stasia will turn towards Anayaomen. Trust me.
Always.
And then
They just start
we
kissing.
will. Yeah. There's a long makeout session
Knew
before
it.
me and John just making out left and right, and then
Okay, sorry.
You know.
Sorry.
To be here to witness it?
Thi-
Okay, I
right,
get
this-
it.
this
That's,
is-
that's
this
the only
is-
reason I'm here. I get it.
this is
No,
the
you
cable
guys-
version of it. It's just a cut to black, and then like
Hey,
hours pass.
you still have the power, right?
Yeah.
You can cut
Power
us
of
off.
Yeah.
You got
power
the
of
ring.
voodoo?
You got the ring.
Voodoo?
You got the
I
ring.
wish for them to go
I
to horny
do.
jail. That's what I.
Yeah, I would.
Sorry. Okay, and then she will turn to Thorn. Say,
Oh, hold on, hold on, hold on. One second. Discord just
He
did like a.
dipped.
Discord
yeah,
just did,
apparently
Discord
Malin
just
was
did
like, no,
a,
this proposal's gonna suck. Get the fuck out.
Discord
Okay.
did like an
I hate
update. Discord did like an update. I'm so sorry.
Oh no.
Okay, go
It
ahead.
did the same thing. Yeah. Turn to Thorn. I have broken laws, whether or not I agree with them. And I am sure that you and your order will say that I deserve a punishment to be caged again. But I think that through all of these, what is it now? Millennia? You have lost sight of what it was like when we first established that covenant. And during that time, you used divine power to effect great change. Just like this girl. So what I propose is that we go back to that. I gave you my divine power to hold. You can consider it a prison if you want. And I'm sure that will...
Oh my god. Oh my god. Why is this
Did it.
happening?
It's okay, I paused as soon as I heard the chime. I'm sure that will be a punishment for you after railing so long against the divine. And we let this girl live a normal life. And perhaps we'll come to a understanding because we have so much to discuss.
Thorn is crying about midway through it, and the second you kind of stop talking and finish, he shakes his head. I'm so sorry. You don't understand. You have no true grasp of what we were trying to do. Punish you? Punish you? No. Remove you from harming anyone, from hurting others. And your power? He looks at his hand and then kind of looks at Alanusero. You and your charade have gone on long enough. And he raises his hand again, and you watch as the darkness kind of sheds from the place, and this massive form appears behind Thorn. It appears to be a woman's face, very similar to Castia's, but kind of bleak and gray, with purple kind of gloam eyes, her tongue sticking out like a serpent's, horns on her head, and floating above that head is a woman resplendent, like Castia, like Stasia, completely, fully glowing with life. I serve another. I serve life itself. She points her wand down at you, looking at you, and says, "Child." And it kind of booms throughout the space, and you realize that when she does that, you're no longer in this demi-plane anymore. You're back on Fort Ordeal. You're back in the material plane. And she says, "Child, you have run far and wide for long enough. Come back to me. Reunite with me. Become one with me." And Thorn kind of drops to his knees, still crying, kind of looking at you, almost as if like he feels like he's deceived you. Alanusero kind of turns to look at her, and as she's pointing the wand at you, and he looks like he's about to become defiant, she raises the orb, and he just drops to the ground, seemingly pressed down by some supernatural force. And Nayland says, "There's no need for this, Elowain. You are not welcome here, and by stepping into this space, you have broken covenant. She is me. Her trespass allows me this trespass. So says the bylines." And she kind of raises her hand, and the strange kind of artifice behind her clicks and turns, and you see a man kind of appear behind her holding a cross, the Atavian cross, kind of nodding his head, and then kind of fade away. And Nayland says, "I understand the bylaws. I was there when they were written. But you are meddling with something that does not need your agency here. This was to be handled clearly and decisively. Her request of Thorn was a powerful one. And one that does not need to be followed upon. Please." She kind of holds the wand still towards you. "If you wish for this arbiter's words to hold me at bay from this, speak true, child."
Stasia will sigh and look at Thorn again. Just like that again. I have made my wish, this girl's wish, both of them, quite clear.
Nayland kind of walks towards you slowly, and then he kind of looks towards Elowain and places his hand on his sword. You have broken the covenant. I will warn you no more. She holds her wand out, and then he looks to Thorn. And you have dishonored yourself greatly in my eyes. He waves his hand and he vanishes. And then he looks up to her. You may have power over him, but not his body. It is mine. She kind of tilts her head to the side. I ask again, child, is this one your arbiter? Will he speak for you?
Yes.
She waves the wand up, around in a full circle. The face kind of vanishes slowly, and she kind of disappears behind the wand, completely vanishing from sight as if she was never there. Naylin lets out a sigh, and then kind of looks at you. They don't see it as I do. I see it differently. And he walks over and raises his hand as if he's going to try and touch you. Do you allow him, or do you kind of freak out?
I will allow it.
Places his hand on your shoulder, and then kind of looks into your eyes. And in that moment, you can see yourself through his eyes. And you can see that there is no soul to you. There is just this divine essence that's holding this girl together. Alawain was right to wish to recover you. You are a shard of her given sentience. An unknown amount of Stasias exist in this world, wishing to have been freed from what some might consider a binding to life, to death, to the dichotomy, to the law of death itself, the freedom of life strictured by that. They turn up every so often, and we face them. More often than not, Thorn is the one who recovers them and returns them to the goddess. To him, you are but another thing. He does not see it as I see it. Your divine energy can be twisted to become a soul. And once that is done, I can remove the divine spark from it. He looks over to Alose. I'm assuming you understand your part in this.
Got the ring?
He looks to Castiad. If this thing is done, that which you know as Stasia will be returned to the one you just met. It will be given back to her, the true goddess of the moon.
So that was who I think it was.
Naylin looks at you. Not many mortals have seen the Whirring Triumvirate. In fact, out of character, I don't think anybody in the Discord has actually seen a member of the Triumvirate physically.
I don't think so.
Like, other than like an like a allusion to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a
Spooky.
in the past. Like, yeah. I think it's the first time I've put the god on the plane in a long time.
Yeah.
The one I remember is the battle against the 100-handed one.
Yeah, that was
it was
Stasia and
like-
Alanusera, though.
Yeah.
That was just
Gotcha.
them again.
They're not, yeah.
I mean, there
That's
was
these
a avatar of Atavius, I think, in the epic level game,
Right.
but not the actual.
Yes.
Yeah. So
He is not allowed full right. He's allowed to...
I done fucked up a lot down here.
So what's fun is Atavius is allowed to join the Grey Order as a mortal by doing what Stasia did with Acastia.
Laws for
Reported.
thee, but not for me. I see how
know,
it is.
right?
Well, you didn't fill out the proper paperwork.
Fucking bureaucracy.
It's all
That's it.
bureaucracy all the way down.
He's
Um,
cheating.
So, is that what you want, Castia or Stasia? We're gonna go with Castia. Is that all right?
That is fine. Since it seems like one half of my proposal is off the table now, let me ask you for a different favor, Nayland.
you have my word. I will do my best.
It is clearer now than ever that he is too far gone. His obsession, even if it began rightfully because he has been wronged and misled, he's gone too far.
I agree.
It has consumed him, and I know that I'm as much at fault for that as he is. So before I am gone, take care of him. Whatever that means to you.
No, what?
He walks over to Sarth. Smiles at him. And then places 2 fingers of his hand onto Sarth's forehead. Sarth kind of, like a slight, wince of pain. But then afterwards, get the butt out of there. Sorry, baby cat. Not the right baby cat, though.
Cat. I know, not the right baby cat.
It's a-
The
it's
other
a-
baby cat.
it's a poo
Baby cat.
places 2 fingers on his head. There's a slight wince of pain from Sarth, but kind of like not like a agony, just kind of like a, like a tinge. And then you watch as all of the runes of the rune sword reappear on the blade, just kind of clink, 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 popping into place. He then moves his hand away, because when it was in Sarth's hands, it only had the 2. And it was
Yeah,
in,
the 2 that I was given. Yeah.
when it was in Thorn's hands, it had all of them. This blade is restored to its moon shape. This was created by you and seems to follow you around quite a bit. It was made in this world. It is not showing of any divine spark that I can see. It will remain with you, or your chosen. Thorn's power in that right has been removed, and my discussion with him will be stern and thorough, and it may be the case that he is removed from the order entirely. Regarding your wish, you feel his mind kind of enter into yours, and the words kind of in perfect Elvish kind of enter into your mind from him. But there's this kind of momentary kind of beat where inside of your mind they'll say, he says, this wish is a powerful thing. You are very wise and cunning, tactically minded, precise. You can take the right instrument that I have given to you in these words, speak them aloud to the ring, and give Castia exactly what she wants. However, I also offer you a freedom here. If there is anything that you so desire, in the Elvish language, which I don't have I've never made an Elvish language, and we don't use the Tolkien one because I try not to be that kind of attached. But I imagine that in this language, there's a part of what's happening here where there's no end to the sentence, and the
Mm.
way that he's kind of phrased the wording, it's kind of leaving like a brand new motorcycle, right? Like it's kind of like a
Brand new car.
so it's kind of like it's kind of like a situation where in the Elvish, no matter what you add to the byline, it'd be like if you got a blank check and everything was already filled out, right? So like
Yeah.
you're supposed to cash a check, but you can kind of like put it wherever you want.
It's like a bill, and then they tack something at the
Yeah.
end of it that
Yeah.
it's like they just kind of
Yeah,
like want to
here's some
brush
funding for a
through.
bridge in Marion County that nobody's ever gonna see.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
is allowing you access to like one small addendum.
Oh man.
Whatever
You like torturing her with choices tonight, damn.
feel. Well,
How
again,
dare you?
he leaves it at a point where he's giving her the choice to be as precise as she wants and just leave it as is, or to add anything that she feels would be helpful in this new life.
Hmm. How dare you do this to me, John? I have no prep work.
But what's great about it is there's kind of in my mind three choices, but I'm not going to outline them what they are. It's more kind of like nebulous though, so they're not like three precise choices. One of
Yeah.
them is precise, obviously, like just do it without doing anything crazy. But yeah, depending on your choice here, depends on kind of how Nealon's going to regard you.
Interesting follow-up question while Liz is thinking here. How is Mr. Alan Usuro taking this potential route?
He has not moved. He is held still, just quietly. And when you look to him, you realize that he is in observance of the covenant.
Because we are no
100%.
longer
Correct. He was brought here by a god. That was not
Mhm.
his doing. So he is not
Mhm.
acting in any agent. He's
Okay.
not performing anything.
clever.
He is not done.
Smart
Mhm.
boy.
He'd been through this before, yeah.
Mm.
Well, let's think about, and again, if there's people watching and they want to post stuff in the chat, that's also helpful. But let's think about what you could potentially wish for here, right? You could wish for the protection of Castia, right? You could wish for the victory of the Levidians in the Wizards' War, which isn't called that yet. But you could wish for their freedom in like the defeat of the Denisotvans. You could wish for peace in the realm. You could wish for immortality for yourself. You could wish for, like, again, these are just throwing it out there. There's all these small little things you can kind of put in there. You could wish for if there's somebody who passed away that is super important to you in this storyline that you think deserves to come back. I don't think I killed anybody like super important, and saying everybody would probably not be great.
Yeah.
Maybe like one person might be good. If there was like one person, maybe. But yeah, besides
That
that,
whole blight situation.
Yeah, that's
the
the one that I was thinking of.
the blight of Einkarad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting too for me. That's a fun
I know. That's why I was like, ah, shit, that would fuck up a lot of plans.
No.
I mean, isn't that? I mean, like, wasn't Lose kind of happy to be able to go home, and then it immediately got overrun?
Then immediately got fucked over.
So
I think that's what she would want to tack on to, because that's like the main thing that was going through my head for that she would be thinking of is Einkrad kind of being restored to what it once was.
a great choice. you hear in your voice from Nayland. And as the words are basically put into your head in full string, you enunciate them in perfect Elvish to the ring. The stone glows, dissipates. Once Castia kind of has this kind of moment, it doesn't like, there's no glowing, there's no like crazy stuff. It's just kind of like, it just kind of happens.
You mean she doesn't float in the air with sparklies like the
No.
Beast did in Beauty and the Beast?
And Castia, like, you still feel a connection to
Turning
the
around
divine,
here.
but like not in the same way. It's not like imagine like this is the best way I can describe it. This is really going to be silly. Imagine you have two different states of drinking a beer. State 1 is drinking a beer out of a glass, and State 2 is drinking a beer out of the spout, like with your
Yeah.
face underneath it.
Yeah.
You are now drinking out of a glass. You were the other one the whole time. So it seems to be much more leveled out at this point. At that point, Nayland kind of steps forward to you and then slowly draws his sword and raises his hand. This will not be painful at all. And then he places the sword against your flesh, but you don't feel steel. And then it pierces your skin, and you don't feel it. It just kind of ghostly enters your body. And then he moves it about inside of you, and then slowly extracts it with some kind of weird, strange, luminous film on his blade. He then kind of walks over to Alanusero, looks to him. You have observed the covenant unerringly. I am to return this to the goddess. However, as I am feeling that we should be as charitable as possible, I understand you have a new dread realm in the Plane of Shadow due to the follies of my descendants. You see Alanusero grin, like there's just like a very large smirk. He reaches forward, places his hand on the blade, and then drags his hand across it, pulling the luminous film off and leaving a streak of blood. And when he kind of has it in his hand, it's the hand with the punishment symbol, turns and starts walking into the large opening of Fort Ordeal to enter into its barrow, the deep beneath which you were going to go to meet him. Nayland looks to Cassia. A long life to you. I don't know how long it will be. By the look of it, you presumably started at around human age 18, so maybe 50, 80 years left on you. Looks to Lose. You demonstrated yourself very well in everything here that I saw. What do you plan to do?
Like to go home
He
for a bit.
nods. Walks over to the Red Comet's body, which was not allowed to come back due to Alanusero's desire to let the Undying Soldier die.
You know, that's a fate that he probably
that comet.
needed
Well-
eventually.
If a god of death is finally allowed to let an undying thing die, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna let
Hell
that
yeah.
happen. Yay! He reaches down and kind of grabs something off of him, walks over to you, Lose, with his hands kind of like this, and then kind of offers it to you. And if you kind of place your hands out, he places a Grey Order return badge into your hand. If you ever wish to do great for the realm and help us in defending the balance, which is, as you have firsthand seen, is a tenuous one at best. Place this upon your arm or leg and tear it from your body, and I will immediately have audience with you.
Castia will chime in. And I think you'd have better judgment than we've seen most of them have.
He returns back to
Some of them are a piece of work.
he returns back to the
I
comment.
know, right? Jesus Christ.
And
Fucking cops.
he nods
God.
his head and he says, as he picks up the body, but like, and this is a guy who's like in huge crystal plate, like, and
Mhm.
looks like he weighs a lot, and Nayland just picks him up like a rag doll, like no problem, because God, right? Kind of picks him up and kind of looks to you both and says, "Well, that's the problem with freedom when you're trying to maintain balance. I hope that this has proven to be a suitable resolution to our problems. And I'm glad for the way it has come to be myself. I feel that this is the best possible resolution that we could have come to pass."
I'm not getting killed by his mom. It's good enough for me. Points towards Sarth.
Oh, right. Of course. Would you like to be returned to them? It's quite a walk. I am certain by your own power it would be difficult.
It has been exhausting, and Castia will turn to Sarth and say, "Let's go home."
Of course. He throws the body over his shoulder, which again, he's small, so it's very strange. Like, Nalen's probably like 6 foot, right? And
Mm.
the body was like a 7 foot guy in like full crystal plate, and it's just like laying on his shoulder. Very strange.
Like a dung beetle with that giant
Yeah.
ball of poop.
Yeah.
Except it's like a
That's
whole
right,
ass-
shape those.
those draws
Like a
his,
dying poop ball.
draws his sword again and then streaks it across the air. And when he does so, a gate opens up, and he then kind of like walks through it. And as he's doing so, the kind of manifestation of the void turns into the desert, and he walks through it, and you follow him into your friends. Once through, you can see a couple of Grey Order individuals who are kind of talking to people. He looks at them, and without saying a word, they all kind of nod their head at him and start walking towards the gate that you just came through, and all the Grey Order people leave. You're regrouped with your friends and family. In that short time after, there's an effort by Orlandis to return back to the ship and recover the treasure of the Bonnie and get it back to Cardend, which is relatively close to where you're located. As a group, it's up to you whether or not you continue fighting in the battle, in the war, to see.
Fucking cops.
Fair enough. Some of them are cool.
Yeah, some of
Like
them.
one.
But
Like
but
one.
generally still.
Brooklyn was cool. Nayland was cool.
Okay, two. I consider
Cy-
Nayland kind of outside the Grey Order.
Cypress was cool.
Eh,
He was
No.
doing
he
his
threw
best.
some fucking rocks at me. That's
the
a
birds.
bitch ass move.
Sent us,
Yeah, the birds,
got us
right?
crashed, and
Okay, yeah.
I mean-
it wasn't even our airship.
Yeah, I know.
Dryson was. I guess Dryson was all right.
Dryson
He was
was
alright.
cool.
I'll go 2.5. 2.5.
They're all still getting flipped off.
Nayland is not a member of the Grey Order. He's the fucking founding member.
Uh,
It's just he.
Fucking chief of police over there.
The problem.
they all still get the bird.
Yeah, the problem with Nayland is
That's
like
it.
if he does the thing, like he's kind of going against the Covenant. Like if he goes, because yeah, you know why. Anyway,
They're all getting flipped off still.
that's fair and fine. But Orlandis is very much after this moment focused on the task at hand, making sure
Yeah.
Lavidia is safe. If you go with him back to Cardend, which I'm presuming both of you do, a return to Aincrad will have you realize that it has been cleared entirely of its blight, but it does look like it is currently unpopulated. This serves as a point of interest, though, for Orlandis, because it is a much more defensible position than the ruins of Cardend as they kind of were, right? And so he starts to kind of invest a bit in that. When it comes to the conflict, the Wizards' War, we'll discuss more into that in the future, in the Discord, in the lore drops. once I come up with it, and as I kind of discuss with more people as to how that goes and the beats therein. But to kind of do an aftermath beat of it, I'm presuming that with Losei's wish, her desire now is to make sure that Einkarad is restored to its previous glory. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
And joining
Like-
the Grey Order is probably not something she's going to do in the immediate future, if at all.
Correct. Like she keeps the band in like a safe place that she knows where it's at, but probably no one else does, and keeps it fairly close.
That makes sense. And
Yeah.
then for Castia, we've kind of discussed off screen a bit about what happens with Castia. At some point in the near future, she will become romantically involved with Sarth, and at some point therein, she'll have
Love wins.
children with Sarth, and presumably taking over the family estate for Blethild's family, the Barlows. Castia's probably going to remove herself from a conflict state, right? She's not going to join the war effort. Is that fair to assume? You're not as powerful divine-wise as you were. Think of it as kind of a lessening of your power.
Yeah. I think after all of this, she would certainly be very tired of all of this shit, but I think if Orlandis or the people needed her, or Sarth was going to participate in a battle, she would be there.
Okay.
Like, if things got dire.
Well,
the same way that even before she knew...
We got Orlandis
Go ahead.
right here. Do you think Orlandis would ask Castia to come into the conflict? Like, do you think after, like, everything that's happened with her and, like, putting these children through this kind of horrifically, like, global and difficult situation, he'd be like, hey, do you want to come help with this war when, like, you know, with the money he's got and, like, you know, the resources he has, and also Losei now building up Einkarad with probably assistance from the elves, possibly a marriage to a elvish sister of Losei's, you know, stuff like that. Like,
you will get married.
there could be like some alliances therein. Like, there could be stuff that's happening that's going to better it for everybody. You could let the kids live in peace, but if you wanted them to fight on, you could.
Orlandis, being the person he is, and like if they do get reunited and like, you know, they talk about all their experiences,
He gets out of space jail.
and he gets out of space jail.
Yeah,
He's out of space jail.
He's out of space jail.
he would probably let her live her life. I don't think he would ask her to like come to war.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily. Like, he would just let her live.
And I think with everything that's happened, Blafeld would probably be more of a mind to kind of remove her children from that kind of conflict. She's out. She is 100% out.
She can stay in Einkarad if she wants.
She will become the leader of the town watch of Cardend.
Hell yeah.
So that's a thing. She's very much about protecting her family, but she's not going to run off into danger anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be fair for Castia and Sarth as well, that if the conflict does come upon Cardend during the war, they will fight for that purpose. They won't hide from that.
And it does. So a couple of beats that I want to kind of highlight in the stream just because we are talking about it. As we mentioned, the individuals therein. Astrogoth, praise be, Doot Doot McGee, stayed in Penford, remains in Penford, and will continue to sing songs about the situation, having come from afar and having gotten some of the information secondhand, but some of it firsthand with traveling with the goddess revealed is what the story is called. Blafeld obviously locking in on the defense of the town. Glint, our favorite monster hunter, joined up with the members of the Hawk Roost and brought the fight directly to Balthanir, the castle up on the mountain that the Denisovans were holding, and caught them in a surprise attack during the early portions of the Wizard's War, when the very large capital ship that they had that was shooting through conglomerate ships like they were nothing traveled off to the east. For those who are also watching the Tuesday game, you will know that the whale is currently located at the Eye of Kernabosk, which is a temple on the eastern side of Ordris, the Isle of Storms. Orlandus is going to be a hero for the war and kind of a lead element in it due to his alliance with one of the council members, the Cool Ass Dragon, and will soon become friends with a lot of the other members therein. Him, and by him I mean Jonah and I will have to discuss that back and forth. The end of his story is yet unwritten. However, the story will be discussed off screen. What I am hoping for from you, Jonah, is we will have a kind of end discussion where either Orlandus dies of old age, happy and safe, and it's a very happy ending therein, or he dies during conflict and potentially is nominated for sainthood. Sanat, who we mentioned, is kind of a great hero for the game, is individual who sacrificed themselemselves, but most folks weren't paying attention to the fact that they were entering into a chronomantic prison where there was a creepy old guy that's a part of the chrono god.
Was he creepy?
Atma. Yeah, I mean, it's Cardiff. It's
He
fucking
was a
Dan.
little creepy, but
Okay,
you know,
alright,
he's
I didn't know.
fine.
And with Dan's permission,
I mean, he gave me nice stuff.
with Dan's permission, Sanat was taken on as an apprentice of Atma, the god of past and present. So Atma doesn't have any agents in the world, or
Besties.
agents that kind of follow him because he's kind of the hidden god. So this is the first individual who worships Atma and isn't someone who's saying that Atma is the representation of everything being destroyed, which sometimes he is represented as.
Allegedly.
Vravik, who we just got data on earlier this evening, returned back to his tribe, but when they started getting attacked because of the hand of God that was on Vravik, decided to take a stances in leadership for his tribe and then join the fight. So he returns back to Cardend, meets with Orlandus, and will bring the Long Whisker tribe to bear against the Denisovans. So that will also be noted in the Wizards' War histories. And that is the conclusion of the game. If there's anything else you want to throw on it, absolutely. I do want to make sure the reason why I'm wanting to keep these narrative points in the video and also make sure that they're canonized here in some regard is because they will serve as history for my next game, which will be taking place in the future of this one.
Yay!
But anything else that you folks want to throw on it?
Orlandus gets married to
Losay's sister.
yeah.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
If you want.
We're gonna have a lot of.
I'll allow it.
It'll probably serve as a political marriage to start, but obviously there were feelings beforehand. But the reason why it's
She seemed interested.
Yeah, the reason why it's probably brought up very quickly and fast tracked, possibly by Losay, is like, yeah, we need Elvish help, and she's a part of the Savarice Academy. Let's get you in there. Oh, now they're tied to the war effort because they have someone married to it, so they have to send their mages.
I mean, I'm not divine anymore, but I think I'm still ordained to perform a marriage ceremony. Like, I
You're a
think
cleric. Yeah.
Oh my god, officiated by the goddess of the moon herself.
Wow.
That's very cool.
That's very cool.
Absolutely.
But would only Losay know that?
What, the goddess of the moon part?
Yeah.
No, everybody. I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Orlandus knew.
I mean,
he was there. They were tracking him or pushing her to where she needed to go.
The whole of Aincrad.
They didn't Men in Black mind wipe him in Space Jam.
They don't know.
No, just a young priest human girl.
Yeah,
but yeah, Orlandus.
But like, those who know.
Yeah. Orlandus would be like, yeah, I got held in space prison for her. She better be okay with marrying us and officiating it. Shit.
Yeah.
Any other
even now
addendums, add-ons, notes that we want to throw on there for my my notes here, for my recorded notes? If not, then that
I
was a
don't think so.
very great session. I think I enjoyed it the most. And yeah, yeah, very good stuff. We'll talk a bit about it off screen. Thanks for watching those that did, and we will see you folks when we get to another game. I don't know what it'll be. Not next Friday because
Elden Ring!
I'll
That is
probably
the
be away
next
for a while.
game.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see.
Elden Ring is the next game.
Elden Ring's the next game. All right. Good night.